Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about something that often carries a negative stigma in our society: being alone. We live in a world that celebrates constant connection. We measure our worth by the number of likes, followers, and friends. Yet in this noise, we often lose the most important connection of all, the one with ourselves. Being alone is not about loneliness, it's about solitude, a sacred space where growth, clarity, and strength are born. When we allow ourselves to step away from the noise and embrace the silence, we begin to truly listen, not to the world, but to our inner voice. In this space, we rediscover our passions, understand our pain, and reconnect with our purpose. Some of the greatest minds in history, from Einstein to Picasso, from Virginia Woolf to Steve Jobs, spent time alone. They understood what many of us forget. Solitude is a power, not a punishment. In the stillness, we build self-awareness, we learn resilience, we develop confidence that doesn't rely on external validation. Being alone teaches us that we are enough, not because others say so, but because we believe it ourselves. So don't fear being alone. Embrace it, use it, let it become your strength, your sanctuary, and your source of transformation. Thank you. One of the biggest misconceptions about being alone is that it automatically means you're lonely. But there's a world of difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the pain of feeling disconnected, even in a crowded room. It's the ache of craving companionship and not having it. Solitude, on the other hand, is a deliberate state, a conscious decision to step back from the noise of the world and spend time with yourself. In solitude, you're not empty, you're full of thoughts, dreams, questions, and potential. It's a space where you're not performing, not pleasing, not pretending, you're just being. It's in these moments that you strip away the layers you wear to impress others and come face to face with who you really are, raw, unfiltered, and real. Society often teaches us to fear being alone. We're told that success means being constantly surrounded by people, constantly busy, constantly connected. But this mindset overlooks a vital truth, that some of the deepest growth happens in solitude. When the world gets quiet, we can finally hear the voice inside, the one that's been whispering through the noise all along. In solitude, we gain the space to ask important questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I believe? What do I want? Not because someone told me, but because I truly desire it. These are the questions that shape our identity, values, and direction in life. Choosing solitude isn't always easy. At first, it can feel uncomfortable or even intimidating. But over time, as you learn to sit with yourself without judgment or distraction, you begin to experience a kind of inner peace that can't be found in any crowd. You begin to enjoy your own company, trust your own thoughts, and respect your own rhythm. Ultimately, solitude is a gateway not to isolation, but to self-discovery. It's not something to escape, but something to embrace. Because when you become comfortable being alone, you become unshakable. You stop needing others to define you. You stop chasing approval. And instead, you start living more authentically from the inside out. In the busyness of everyday life, it's easy to lose touch with ourselves. We move from task to task, conversation to conversation, constantly reacting to the world around us. Rarely do we stop to ask, how do I really feel? Why did I respond that way? This is where the power of alone time comes in. When we are alone, free from distractions, we create the mental and emotional space needed to become more self-aware. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence, and it begins with reflection. Solitude gives us the opportunity to pause and observe our thoughts instead of simply acting on them. When we sit in silence, we can notice patterns in our thinking. We can identify triggers that upset us, habits that no longer serve us, and beliefs we've inherited rather than chosen. These insights don't often come in conversation. They emerge when we have the quiet time to truly listen to ourselves. Alone time allows us to explore not just what we think, but why we think it. Why do we avoid certain situations? Why do we crave approval from certain people? Why are we afraid to take risks, speak up, or slow down? These deep, often uncomfortable questions lead to clarity, and with clarity comes the ability to make better decisions, establish healthier boundaries, and grow into a more authentic version of ourselves. Being alone also helps us reconnect with our emotional world. In solitude, feelings that were buried under stress, social expectations, or distractions begin to surface. Joy, sadness, guilt, pride, regret. Some of these emotions may be hard to face, but they are all part of our inner truth. By allowing ourselves to feel them fully, without judgment, we become emotionally honest. And emotional honesty is what leads to true healing and transformation. The most self-aware people are not those who talk the most, but those who listen the deepest, especially to themselves. Solitude sharpens this inner listening. It teaches us to sit with discomfort, to understand our own emotional responses, and to be more intentional in how we interact with the world. The more time we spend in intentional solitude, the more in tune we become with our values, strengths, weaknesses, and desires. This deep understanding of self becomes a compass that guides our relationships, our work, and our life choices. And it all begins with the courage to be alone, to face the mirror of our mind, and accept what we see. Creativity doesn't flourish in chaos. It needs space, it needs time, and most importantly, it needs silence. In a world that's constantly buzzing with notifications, opinions, and obligations, creativity often becomes one of the first casualties. But when we step into solitude, when we intentionally remove ourselves from the noise, we give our minds the freedom to imagine, explore, and create without interruption. Some of the greatest creative breakthroughs in history have come during moments of deep solitude. Think of Isaac Newton, who developed the theory of gravity while in isolation during the Great Plague, or J.K. Rowling, who began crafting the world of Harry Potter during a train ride in solitude. Artists, writers, musicians, inventors, many of them found their genius not in crowds, but in quiet corners, where they could think freely and feel deeply. The reason solitude enhances creativity is simple. The mind needs stillness to wander. When we are alone and undistracted, we can enter a state of deep thought or daydreaming, where ideas flow more organically. It's in these moments, when we're not trying to impress anyone, follow a structure, or meet a deadline, that our originality comes alive. We start connecting dots in ways we hadn't before. We uncover fresh perspectives. We access parts of ourselves that are often hidden beneath the surface of daily routine. In solitude, there's no pressure to be perfect. There's only the process, the freedom to experiment, to fail, to try again. And that freedom is the foundation of every creative act. You don't need an audience to be creative. You don't need applause or recognition. You need the freedom to explore without judgment. And that freedom is often only found in the stillness of being alone. Silence also enhances our sensory awareness. When we're alone, we begin to notice more: the subtle colors in nature, the rhythm of our breathing, the cadence of our thoughts. This heightened awareness feeds the creative mind, helping us observe details and insights that others miss in the rush of life. Moreover, solitude allows us to return to intrinsic motivation, to create for the sake of creating, not for likes, approval, or monetary gain. It reminds us of the joy of self-expression, the thrill of building something from nothing. and the satisfaction of turning a fleeting thought into something real. In a world that often confuses productivity with noise and motion, solitude invites us to slow down and create with intention. It offers us the blank canvas our minds so often crave, a space where inspiration isn't forced, but welcome. Emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from adversity, to stay grounded in the face of stress, and to adapt to life's ever-changing challenges, is not something we're born with, it's something we build. And one of the most powerful yet often overlooked ways to build it is through intentional time alone. When we are constantly surrounded by people, noise, and digital distractions, we often use them to shield ourselves from our own thoughts and emotions. We scroll through social media to avoid discomfort. We fill our schedules so we don't have to face our fears. We lean on others for reassurance, hoping they'll help us make sense of our uncertainty. While there's nothing wrong with seeking support, over-reliance on external sources can leave our inner world underdeveloped and fragile. Solitude, however, strips all of that away. When you are alone, truly alone, you can't run from your feelings. You can't distract yourself with small talk, social feeds, or the comforting presence of others. You are left with your raw emotions, your unfiltered thoughts, and your inner struggles. And while that might sound uncomfortable, it is in that discomfort that true resilience begins to form. By sitting with your emotions instead of avoiding them, you begin to understand that you are stronger than you think. You realize that sadness doesn't break you, that fear doesn't define you, that anxiety can visit without taking control. You develop the mental and emotional tools to manage stress, process pain, and navigate uncertainty, not by pushing it away, but by learning how to move through it with strength and grace. Alone time also teaches you how to self-soothe. Instead of relying on others to lift you up, you learn how to comfort yourself, to speak gently to yourself, to reflect and to reframe your mindset. This ability to regulate your own emotions is a core aspect of resilience. It gives you a sense of emotional independence that no one can take away from you. Furthermore, solitude gives you the chance to observe your patterns, how you react under pressure, how you handle disappointment, how you talk to yourself in moments of failure. This awareness helps you consciously rewire those patterns over time, replacing self-doubt with self-trust, panic with presence, and reactivity with intention. Being alone is like going to the emotional gym. Every moment spent facing your thoughts and feelings head-on strengthens your capacity to cope, to recover, and to keep moving forward. The more time you spend in solitude, the less dependent you become on external validation or constant reassurance. You build a kind of inner sturdiness, a quiet confidence that doesn't waver even when life gets hard. And in that sturdiness, you discover a version of yourself that isn't easily shaken by the world around you. You become more grounded, more centered, and more capable of standing on your own, no matter what challenges come your way. True confidence isn't loud, it doesn't demand attention.